Welcome back. I am filming this video on Saturday, February 29th. It's been 6 days since the previous video, and like I predicted, a ton has happened and a lot of news has come out about coronavirus, yes, but also how they're being spread primarily by the cult Shincheonji. Because of the secretive and deceptive nature of the cult, the information has come out at a weird, slow, steady drip. So every day offers new bits and pieces of information, and it's hard to tie it together. So I'm going to try to share with you what's come out and try to put it in an order that makes sense. So let's start with today, Saturday. The total number of coronavirus cases is up to nearly 3,000 in South Korea. The number of confirmed cases since yesterday jumped by almost 600. Now you might say, well, that's a huge jump. Are things really getting worse here? And the answer is no, not necessarily, and probably not. What I have to make clear is over the past week, the Korean government has gotten a hold of the information of over 300,000 Shincheonji members and have subjected so far 88% of them to testing for coronavirus. So when you are actively testing the most likely people to have the virus, you should expect to get a lot of results, and that's what happened. This all centered around a church in Daegu that holds almost 10,000 members, and the current virus count just in Daegu alone is up to 2,000. So 2/3 of all infected people in Korea live in Daegu, and of those infected in Daegu, 80% of them are Shincheonji members. So what that means is literally over half of all the people in Korea who have coronavirus belong to this cult. So let's jump back in time. How did this cult get infected in the first place? It can be traced back to a 61-year-old woman who is the 31st confirmed coronavirus patient in Korea. She's the one deemed the super spreader who attended Shincheonji Church twice on a Sunday, infecting all the other members. But where did she get it from? Well, the cult has been lying about that, sharing its overseas missionary activities on its official website. Shincheonji mentions the establishment of a church in Wuhan, China. Shincheonji said that the church in Wuhan is unable to engage in activities because it has been closed by Chinese authorities, so no congregation members have been there. That's their statement that was reported on Tuesday. However, on that same day, this information came out. Members of the Christian sect linked to a cluster of coronavirus cases in South Korea held meetings in Wuhan until December, only stopping when they realized that the community had been hit by COVID-19, the previously unknown disease caused by the virus. Rumors about a virus began to circulate in November, but no one took them seriously, said one member. On Thursday, we learned this new tidbit about the church in Wuhan. The sect earlier claimed its church in Wuhan had been shut down last year, but a YouTube channel whose Korean name can be translated as Eschatology Office said on Wednesday that it obtained a transcript of a sermon from the sect's Busan branch, which manages missionary activities in Wuhan. According to the transcript, the head of the Busan church said on February 9th, "You know about Wuhan pneumonia. Our district church is there. More than 700 people have died in China, while there are more than 30,000 confirmed cases. But not even one of our disciples has been infected. If we stand firmly by our beliefs, God will protect us." So not only did Shincheonji operate in Wuhan, but they lied about the continued operations of that particular church. Gee, I wonder why nobody trusts Shincheonji. Speaking of unreliable, here's more about that one super spreader woman. Patient number 31 checked into a small Daegu hospital on February 7th after a minor traffic accident. The next day, she complained of a sore throat. The day after that, a Sunday, she attended a Shincheonji church service. She developed a fever the next day, one that lingered, and she stayed in the hospital. Still, she slipped out the following Sunday to go to church again. Now, one might say, oh, maybe it's just this one super spreader woman who's crazy and did things she wasn't supposed to do. Except for the fact that she seemed to be following Shincheonji orders pretty strictly. Shincheonji teaches illness is a sin, encouraging its followers to suffer through diseases to attend services in which they sit closely together, breathing in spittle as they repeatedly amen in unison. They are not supposed to not attend, no matter what. And if they skip one service because they are so deathly ill they can't attend, they're expected to make it up immediately the next day or two. So how does the virus spread so easily from member to member? Church members are supposed to kneel on the floor in tight rows at temple halls, Worshippers are not allowed to wear masks during services. Here are a couple more examples. In other cases, a self-identified Shincheonji follower who came to a hospital complaining of a high fever ran off during examination when the doctors informed her she may be quarantined. One woman who donated her liver to her mother for transplant belatedly admitted she belonged to Shincheonji when her fever would not drop after the surgery. And guess what? Both cases led to a temporary shutdown of the hospitals involved, making the public health response to the coronavirus that much more difficult. So those are examples of 3 different cult members so far who are creating extremely dangerous situations for society around them. Here's another example. A 27-year-old woman who became the first confirmed case in Yongin, just south of Seoul, was caught lying to her family and government authorities about not visiting the Daegu church. Surveillance cameras caught her entering the church last week. What did I tell you? They lie about everything. Lying and deception is their modus operandi. Usually it's just about recruiting new people, but now it's actually about confirming whether or not they're infected. And you think those 4 examples are bad? It gets worse. On Monday, we found this out. The manager of the infection prevention team at the Sogu Public Health Center in Daegu, who later revealed himself to be a member of the Shincheonji Church of Jesus, was confirmed to be infected Sunday, and 4 of his co-workers were confirmed Monday. We learned this fun tidbit on Wednesday. According to the health authorities, an officer working in the prison service at Cheongsan in North Gyeongsang Province near Daegu tested positive for the virus Monday. Until the confirmation of his infection, the officer had not notified the prison of the fact that he was a member of the Shincheonji Church. In the last video, I mentioned that there was a rumor that someone had been instructing other Shincheonji members to infiltrate other churches and spread the virus to other churchgoers. One former cult member saw this message and said, "When I first heard about the so-called rumor, I believed that it was 100% true. By spreading the virus to regular churches, Shincheonji is trying to quell the exposure that it is currently receiving. They're afraid their lies will all come out in public." By now, you've probably noticed the trend that these people don't publicly identify as being Shincheonji members. Their coworkers don't know about it. Their family often doesn't know about it unless they've cut all ties with them. Now, you might say, well, are they being secretive because of the public stigma against Shincheonji? Or is there a public stigma against Shincheonji because they're secretive? Well, think about it this way. The public stigma isn't going to end if they keep being secretive. A church in Suwon reported that it had caught 2 people who appeared to be Shincheonji members. One man was questioned after being identified as an unregistered member. He ran away after a church administrator tried to take a picture of him. Another man who was caught inside the church building was identified as a Shincheonji member who had visited the church on numerous occasions in the past. One of the most dangerous downsides of these guys being so secretive is that they are ordered by their leaders that they should not answer their phone unless it's a call from another member. And that explains why more than 600 members of the Daegu Church could not be reached by phone. The other half of it is that Shincheonji gets off on its own persecution complex. Here are a few of the things they've told their own members or the public. A former member said, "My friend texted me that news about the coronavirus was propaganda that was attempting to slow down the development of Shincheonji." Shincheonji spokesman criticized slanderous media reports accusing Shincheonji of covering up an internal crisis from the virus. A representative of the church said they will fight against the media's groundless reports and rumors about them. The church also claimed they were the biggest victims of a virus that came from China, and they were deeply concerned about media claims that the church has been hiding something about the infection. "We are urging you to stop the baseless hatred against our Shincheonji followers." Now keep in mind, the leader Lee Man-hee, nobody knows where he is. He's probably in hiding somewhere, but he has allegedly put out a statement saying, "This disease is the doing of Satan, who saw how quickly Shincheonji has been growing and is now trying to stop it." Yeah, I bet that's it. The witch hunt of Shincheonji Church of Jesus has reached its peak. Please stop hatred and oppression of members of Shincheonji Church of Jesus. Please immediately stop the slander and suppression committed by the media with fake news and unconfirmed information. First of all, who is supposed to confirm the information? You? Guess who I trust more between the media and representatives of a cult church. Now, I pointed out that 2/3 of all the patients who had the virus live in Daegu or are in Daegu right now. However, there's another big site of infections very close to Daegu at a particular hospital. For a while, it was unclear why that hospital was the site of so many infections. We found out about this on Tuesday. The hospital confirmed that the elder brother of Shincheonji leader Lee Man-hee was hospitalized in its emergency room for 5 days. About 40 Shincheonji followers attended his funeral, which was held for 3 days until February 2nd at Daenam Hospital. On Thursday, we found out more details about the hospital. Particularly tragic is the case of Cheongdo Daenam Hospital, where the funeral for Lee Man-hee's brother was held. This hospital alone saw 114 cases, most of whom were long-term psychiatric patients. And as of Friday, the total number of infections in Daegu and North Gyeongsan stands at 1,314 and 394 respectively. So now let's talk about the Korean government's effort to try to get information out of the Shincheonji cult. A week ago, President Moon called the temporary shutdown of Shincheonji churches across the country a fair and inevitable step to protect the community. As of Monday, Shincheonji claims that it handed over all its list of followers so that they can be quickly tested by the government to see if they have any infection. However, at first, what Shincheonji handed over was a list of 210,000 followers. On Monday, Mayor Park Won-soon in Seoul said this: "Considering the secretive character of the religious group, we cannot entirely believe the list of followers they are providing. The government should secure the list of their members for a full inspection as soon as possible, even by using force measures such as seizure of their building." And that is what the government did. On Tuesday, it was reported that authorities in Gyeonggi province raided the group's headquarters in the city of Gwacheon, alleging that the church had been slow to turn over its list of members. South Korean officials said they would track down and test all 245,000 members of the church. Initially, it was reported that 74 Shincheonji churches had been closed. However, in a statement on February 21, the Korean Association of Church Communication said Shincheonji currently has 125 disguised locations of religious activity nationwide, a number that increases to 740 if small meeting places are included. The South Korean government on Wednesday said it had finally received a directory of all 210,000 members of the religious group after several days of discussions with its leaders. But then on Thursday, the government received the contacts of 65,000 people taking required courses to join the sect, not included on the list of 212,000 followers submitted earlier. Who'd have thought that the cult would be evasive? That brings the total in the Shincheonji group to over 310,000. Shincheonji also released the full list of 1,100 locations and addresses of church branches and training centers on its homepage. Now, it's weird that Shincheonji would pretend that they didn't have the full information when this is what we know. Experts say Shincheonji keeps meticulous tabs on followers who attend their prayer meetings. They are reportedly fingerprinted and given QR codes before being allowed to enter the church services. Well, that's all I've got right now. One might say, well, now they're finally complying, and hey, 80% of the people with coronavirus are the cult members, so aren't they really the victims? While it's unfortunate that they've contracted this virus, they've done so through neglecting their own harmful activities. They didn't listen to warnings in China when it was reported that there was a spread of a virus. They didn't listen to hospital aides when they told them to stay and not leave. They went to worship no matter how sick they were and without any protective masks. They initially refused to comply with officials and even refused to answer phone calls, and many still are refusing to answer their phones. And then there are some officials who are actually in charge of dealing with medical procedures or other patients who are secret cult members spreading the virus themselves. It seems to never end, and I can imagine it will continue. Yes, now thousands, tens of thousands of cult members are being quarantined and they're not allowed to conduct church services for the foreseeable future, but their handling of this sensitive situation proves what a danger they are to society.